Welcome back. Ed Martin here in the Pro America Report, and I need to give you an update. I was having an exchange with one of our listeners, and you can always email me, by the way, email or get in contact. You can go on Twitter at Eagle Ed Martin, at Eagle Ed Martin on Twitter. Direct messages are open there. On Facebook, Ed Martin Live. You can go in there, and also you can email me directly if you'd like to. Ed at edmartinlive.com, ed at edmartinlive.com. Any of those ways to get to me, or if you go to proamericareport.com to get signed up there, you can email me through there. You can drop an email through there in the contacts, and it'll get to me. So, update. This comment came in from Kevin. Yeah, Kevin in looks like Orange County. I only have my notes. I wrote this down. But here's the topic he wanted to talk about. So, the question is. So Kevin's comment is, why are the Democrats talking about the election and the fact that Trump might not accept the results? And the answer is just because they want chaos, in my opinion. But here's how you know. Okay, in the New York Times, I tell you, if you want to read where the sort of left is going in their arguments against Trump, the places I go are Politico.com, leans left but not insane, and then the New York Times, which is left and insane. And so those two, I don't read the Washington Post. I can't stand to give Bezos any time at all, even on his website. I figure he's got enough. But in the New York Times, they're the crazy left, but it's directionally very helpful. So there is a guy who is a quote unquote election expert. He's an academic. I think he taught in California. I'll look up for sure. I think he taught at one of the Marymount schools, or maybe University of California, Irvine. That's where he taught. Sorry. He's a professor of law and political science there, and he might have taught other places. But he is. He taught at Loyola. That's right. He taught at Loyola Law School, and he was there until 2011. Anyway, his name is Richard Hassan, Hasen. And Richard Hassan is sort of an elections expert. His expertise is elections and how they work, except he's a lefty. So he's not really just an academic. He's not an expert. He's a lefty. And he wrote this piece in the New York Times, and this is the direction they're going in. His title is Bring on the 28th Amendment. And his entire column is that there's not voting. Voting is not used as an agent of equality. And that what we need is an amendment to the Constitution that can make it so that the elections are somehow equality providing. In other words, wouldn't it seem if you get a vote, you get a vote, and I get a vote, that makes us pretty equal? If you're a 18-year-old African-American, you get a vote. If you're a 90-year-old white guy, you get a vote. If you're a 50-year-old Hispanic woman, you get a vote. Everybody gets a vote. Seems pretty fair. He wants a new amendment like the Equal Protection, the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Law, Equal Protection Amendment, and he wants it to be passed so it can be used to do what? Guess what? It's used so you can sue and federal judges can start managing the elections. Okay? So this is his big insight. If you read this column, it says it has no real meat in it. It's gobbledygook in circles. But all it says is that basically, and here it is, given the highly litigious nature of American society, American election law in particular, these political fights often wind up in court. And so that's what we should do, is we should have them go into court more, so with a special constitutional protection. But basically, here's the thing I want to say. When you read this, it's alarmist. And yet there's nothing really in it. There's no facts in it. He's not citing anything. He's not talking about instances of voter fraud. He's not doing anything other than asserting that there's a problem, and the way to get forward is to put a constitutional amendment in and let lawyers and judges decide our elections. Sound familiar? Instead of letting our legislature, the people elected by we the people, decide major policy decisions like whether we should have the word male and female mean sex mean male and female, or the word sex mean male, female, transgender, anything else. They would prefer to have judges make these decisions. And my point here, by response to Kevin, is that the reality is they're trying to distract us and raise alarms for the fall. And I actually think it's more back to the beginning of this program. I do think that there's one part of it. Richard Hassan is probably not a part of this, but he's falling victim to it. There's a way to think of the people who are participants in an effort like communism. You call them collaborators, and sometimes they call them unwitting dupes, but more likely collaborators. They're directionally helping the chaos, even if they may not be signed on to the whole mission. But writing about how flawed the election system is an invitation for degrading the election system. And it's gotten to me, it's gotten so depressing that I will sometimes say to myself, what happens after Trump wins? Because he won once and they didn't stop doing any of this. In fact, they ramped it up. So is there any chance it's ever going to get better? Sometimes it feels like that. But the fact is we can't risk it. We have to go forward and make sure to do our best. But check out that column. I'll put it up in my in social media, and you can see how crazy the left is and Professor Hassan in terms of their direction on the thing. And I will say the one thing we've talked about a number of times, and we'll talk again with John Schlafly about it in one of his columns, is the problem of election mail-in ballots. Could be the biggest threat we've seen in a long time. So, all right, we got to take a break. We got to wrap things up. Not take a break. Thank you, as usual, for listening to the program. Don't forget proamericareport.com to sign up there and stay looped in. Also, go to theanswersandiego.com. Get the show as a podcast. Support Andrea Kaye and our many sponsors. Thank you, as always, to Randy, who's in for Noah, driving the train, keeping us on track. Joanna helps us book all these great guests and produce the show. And especially thank you all for listening. We'll be back tomorrow night. It's Ed Martin right here on the Pro America Report. Talk to you tomorrow night.